As we journey through life, relationships become the fabric that weaves together our days. From family ties to connections in our communities, the people around us can bring immense joy, companionship, and support. But sometimes they can also be the source of stress, conflict, and imbalance. For older adults seeking tranquility and purpose, the quality of relationships matters far more than the quantity. Welcome to the Elder's Compass. If you're searching for a place that truly understands and supports life's later years with practical wisdom, encouragement, and helpful tips just for you, you're in the right place. If you're ready to face this stage of life with resilience and grace, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Let the Elder's Compass be your steady guide on this journey. Hit that subscribe button and join our community today. It's an age-old wisdom. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not those who pull you down. While we cannot control who lives next door or who shares our family tree, we can make conscious choices about the closeness of these relationships. Sometimes, stepping back is the healthiest choice for your peace of mind. Let's explore the 3 types of neighbors and relatives who may be better loved from afar. These reflections could help bring more clarity, balance, and serenity to your life. Part 1. Neighbors to avoid for a peaceful life. 1. The gossip neighbors. Neighbors are often an integral yet subtle part of our lives. They can provide comfort in moments of need, becoming a network of support that enriches our daily experiences. However, they can also disrupt our tranquility, turning a peaceful home into a source of stress and frustration. While we don't always get to choose who lives nearby, we do have control over how much influence these individuals have on our lives. Protecting your peace sometimes means recognizing the types of neighbors who may be better admired from a distance. Among the most impactful are those whose words carry more weight than they should. The gossip spreaders. Every community seems to have at least one gossip spreader. They're the ones who know everything about everyone, or so they claim. They thrive on sharing stories, often adding just enough embellishment to make their tales more intriguing, dramatic, or salacious. These neighbors aren't necessarily ill-intentioned. Many see their chatter as harmless entertainment. Yet, their behavior can create ripples that disturb even the calmest of waters. What begins as an innocent observation about your garden, your family, or your weekend plans can quickly spiral into a narrative you barely recognize. Suddenly, your friendly conversation about planting roses turns into a tale about you competing with the neighbor across the street to see who has the best yard. The dangers of engaging too openly with gossip spreaders lie not just in the miscommunication they can sow, but also in the damage they can do to your relationships with others. Words are powerful, and when twisted or repeated carelessly, they can lead to hurt feelings, misunderstandings, or even outright conflict. Imagine sharing a simple detail about a family member's visit, only to hear the story exaggerated and retold across the neighborhood by the next day. What was meant to be private or inconsequential becomes a point of intrigue or judgment for people who barely know you. This can leave you feeling exposed, misunderstood, or even betrayed. Perhaps even more insidious is the way a gossip spreader can subtly erode the sense of trust in your community. Knowing that someone nearby is eager to share every little detail about your life, or distort it to make it more sensational, can lead you to withdraw or feel guarded, which can detract from the comfort of living in a connected and supportive neighborhood. Over time, the constant buzz of speculation and rumor can be emotionally draining, leaving you longing for a quiet corner where your life isn't someone else's entertainment. But how do you handle a gossip spreader without creating more drama? After all, confrontation isn't always the best path, especially when dealing with someone who thrives on storytelling and attention. The first and most important step is to set clear boundaries for yourself. While you may not be able to change their behavior, you can control how much you share and how you engage with them. Choose your words carefully during interactions, keeping your conversations light and impersonal. There's no need to be rude. After all, the goal is to maintain your peace, not stir up new issues. If the conversation begins to drift toward prying questions or intrusive topics, gently steer it back to neutral territory. Talk about the weather, a recent event in the area, or even a light-hearted topic like a new book or recipe. It's also wise to avoid participating in gossip yourself. Joining in may feel tempting, especially when the gossip is about someone else, but remember that what you say could easily become the next piece of exaggerated news. By staying neutral and non-committal, you reduce the chances of your words being twisted or taken out of context. Maintaining a reputation for discretion not only protects your own peace, but also subtly discourages the gossip spreader from targeting you as a source of new material. Finally, it's worth reflecting on the larger lesson this type of neighbor teaches. Gossip spreaders often thrive because they're seeking connection, albeit in unhealthy ways. Their behavior might stem from loneliness, boredom, or even insecurity. Recognizing this doesn't excuse their actions, but it can foster a sense of compassion that keeps resentment from taking root in your heart. This perspective allows you to approach the situation with understanding while still prioritizing your own boundaries. Ultimately, dealing with a gossip spreader requires a mix of wisdom, patience, and self-protection. The peace of mind you gain by safeguarding your privacy and staying out of their drama far outweighs the fleeting satisfaction of being in the know about neighborhood rumors. Life is too short and too precious to let someone else's words disturb the sanctuary of your home. By setting boundaries and choosing carefully what you share, you can coexist peacefully with a gossip spreader while maintaining the balance and serenity that every home deserves. 2. The selfish neighbor. In every neighborhood, there's often one person who seems to see relationships as one-way streets, paths where they are always the takers and rarely the givers. These selfish neighbors have a knack for showing up when they need something, but are mysteriously absent when the roles are reversed. They may borrow tools and never return them, request favors like watering their plants or looking after their pets, or even ask for your time and effort in unexpected ways. Yet, when it's your turn to ask for assistance, they conveniently have a full schedule or an excuse at the ready. Take the story of Mrs. Helen, a retired teacher who prided herself on being a good neighbor. Living next door to Helen was Tom, a younger man who initially seemed friendly and neighborly. Helen often noticed Tom asking her for small favors, picking up his mail when he was away, lending him tools for home projects, or even dropping off a package for him when he couldn't make it home in time. Being naturally kind-hearted, Helen didn't mind helping, especially since she believed in building a strong sense of community. However, as time went on, Helen realized that Tom's requests were becoming more frequent and more demanding. When Helen's health began to decline, she hesitantly asked Tom for a small favor, help with a quick grocery run while her mobility was limited. Tom responded apologetically, citing his busy schedule. Helen brushed it off as bad timing, but when she later learned that Tom had been home watching a sports game during her request, the sting of being dismissed became harder to ignore. The final straw came when Tom unexpectedly showed up at Helen's door one afternoon, asking if she could babysit his grandchildren for a few hours. He explained he had an important meeting and no one else could help. Despite feeling unappreciated, Helen reluctantly agreed, not wanting to cause tension. But the imbalance in their relationship left her feeling drained and used. She realized that while she had consistently shown up for Tom, he had never once reciprocated. Their neighborly connection was nothing more than a convenience for him. The challenge with selfish neighbors like Tom is that their behavior can erode your sense of goodwill. Over time, the constant taking without giving can lead to feelings of resentment and exhaustion. It's not just about the imbalance in physical effort, it's about the emotional toll of feeling undervalued and exploited. These interactions can make you question the nature of generosity and leave you wondering if kindness is worth the cost. So how do you handle such a dynamic without letting it sour your view of others? The answer lies in learning the power of boundaries and the strength to say no. Often people like Tom rely on the guilt or discomfort others feel about refusing requests. Breaking free of this cycle begins with recognizing that your time, energy, and kindness are valuable resources, not to be given away indiscriminately. The first step is to assess the nature of your interactions with the selfish neighbor. Ask yourself, is this relationship reciprocal? Do they show concern for your needs, Or is it always about what you can do for them? If you notice a clear pattern of one-sidedness, it's time to reconsider how much of yourself you're willing to offer. Remember, being a good neighbor doesn't mean being a doormat. True community is built on mutual respect and shared effort, not exploitation. When a selfish neighbor makes a request, take a moment to assess whether helping aligns with your capacity and willingness. If it feels more like an obligation than a genuine desire, don't hesitate to decline. Saying no can feel uncomfortable, but it reinforces your boundaries and self-respect. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your time or energy. Keep your refusals simple and direct, like, "I'm not able to help with that." Avoid over-explaining, as it may invite pressure or guilt. Protecting your energy allows you to focus on people and activities that truly matter to you. Instead of hoping a selfish neighbor will change or reciprocate, focus on setting boundaries and limiting engagement. Selfishness is often ingrained and unlikely to shift without self-awareness on their part. By prioritizing your own well-being, you avoid frustration and disappointment. Dealing with a selfish neighbor is about balance, not exclusion. Recognize when to say enough and value your needs as much as anyone else's. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect and harmony, so standing firm creates space for meaningful connections. 3. The disruptive neighbor. Few things disrupt peace more than a neighbor who brings chaos to your life. A disruptive neighbor can turn your home, meant to be a sanctuary, into a source of stress with their noise, disorder, or unsafe behavior. Loud parties that stretch into the early hours, shared spaces left messy, or even illegal activities like gambling can make your living environment tense and uneasy. Their actions go beyond inconveniences. They affect both your physical comfort and emotional well-being. Picture this. After a long day, you settle into bed, only to be jolted awake by loud music and shouting next door. Sleep becomes impossible, leaving you groggy and irritable the next day. Or imagine stepping outside to find litter scattered across the shared walkway, a constant reminder of a neighbor's neglect. Over time, these disruptions can erode your sense of harmony and safety at home. Dealing with such neighbors requires patience, assertiveness, and practical strategies. Start with a polite but firm conversation to address the issue. Many neighbors are unaware of the impact their behavior has on others, and a calm discussion can bring it to their attention. For instance, you might say, "The music at night makes it hard for me to sleep. Can we work together to keep things quieter?" If their behavior persists, focus on protecting your peace. Soundproofing your space or using white noise machines can help. For severe issues like illegal activities or chronic rule breaking, involve local authorities or your homeowners association. Sometimes, creating distance might be the best solution. While moving isn't easy, it may be necessary if disruptions significantly impact your quality of life. Your home should be a place of peace and restoration, and safeguarding it is an essential act of self-care. Remember, dealing with a disruptive neighbor can take an emotional toll. So prioritize replenishing your resilience through hobbies, exercise, or support from friends and family. Keep in mind that their behavior often reflects unresolved issues in their own lives, not a personal attack on you. Focus on what you can control, your own response and boundaries. Ultimately, your well-being comes first. By addressing the problem, setting boundaries, or even making a significant change, you can reclaim your peace and ensure your home remains the sanctuary you deserve. Part 2. Relatives to keep at a distance. Family ties can be some of the most rewarding and meaningful connections we experience, yet they are often accompanied by complexities that require careful navigation. While loyalty to relatives is deeply ingrained in many of us, not every family bond is deserving of our energy or investment. Sometimes, for the sake of our own well-being, it's necessary to reevaluate these relationships and set boundaries. Among the most challenging dynamics to manage is dealing with a relative who borrows but never repays. 1. The borrower who never repays. Few things strain relationships as deeply as money. Lending to a relative may start as an act of love and trust, but when repayment doesn't follow, or worse, was never intended, it creates a divide that goes beyond finances. It becomes about emotional betrayal, as your generosity feels taken for granted or even exploited. Take the case of Mr. Samuel, a retired widower known for his dependable kindness. When his niece approached him, pleading for help to start a new business, he didn't hesitate to lend her a substantial amount from his savings. She promised to repay as soon as her business succeeded, and Samuel, trusting her sincerity, didn't bother to formalize the agreement. Months turned into years. Although her business was thriving, repayment never materialized. Each time Samuel raised the issue, she offered excuses. "It's still a tough market," or "I have unexpected expenses." When Samuel eventually pressed more firmly, she accused him of being greedy and unsupportive, deeply hurting him. What began as a kind gesture turned into a source of tension, eroding their once warm relationship. This scenario is far from uncommon. Lending money to family members often creates an uncomfortable imbalance. The lender feels unappreciated and resentful when promises are broken, while the borrower may feel entitled or defensive, straining the bond further. Over time, unresolved financial tension can overshadow genuine connection, making communication difficult and the relationship uneasy. To avoid such issues, it's important to approach financial matters within the family with caution and clear boundaries. Before agreeing to lend money, take time to evaluate the situation. Does the loan fit within your financial means? Do you trust the borrower's intention and ability to repay? If you decide to proceed, consider formalizing the agreement. Even a simple written document outlining repayment terms can reduce misunderstandings and set clear expectations for both parties. If repayment becomes unlikely after the loan has been made, ask yourself whether pursuing the debt is worth the emotional toll. In some cases, letting go of the expectation of repayment, while recognizing the borrower's unreliability, may bring more peace than continuing to chase it. Letting go doesn't mean you have to lend again in the future. It's a way to regain control over the situation and your emotional well-being. Saying no to a financial request, however, can be equally important. Refusing doesn't make you unkind. In fact, it may be one of the most compassionate choices you can make for yourself and the borrower. Constantly providing financial assistance can enable dependency, preventing your relative from learning crucial lessons about responsibility and money management. Declining a loan might encourage them to explore other solutions, such as budgeting, financial planning, or seeking alternative resources. If guilt arises when saying no, remind yourself of your primary responsibility: maintaining your own financial stability and peace of mind. Overextending yourself to help someone who doesn't appreciate or respect your support can lead to regret and strain both your finances and your relationship. Protecting your resources is not selfish. It's a form of self-care that allows you to be present for those who truly value and reciprocate your efforts. Finally, it's helpful to reframe the concept of generosity. True generosity comes from giving freely, without strings attached or expectations of repayment. If you're not in a position to give in this way, it's better to decline the loan than risk endangering both your finances and your bond with the relative. Generosity should create joy and connection, not stress or conflict. By approaching financial interactions with honesty, clarity, and firm boundaries, you can navigate even the most complicated family dynamics while protecting your own well-being. In the end, relationships rooted in trust and respect are far more valuable than money. Striking this balance ensures healthier, more fulfilling connections with your loved ones. Number 2, the self-serving relative. Some relatives treat family relationships like transactions, offering attention and support only when it benefits them. They often disappear when the tables turn, leaving others feeling undervalued and drained. Over time, this pattern of taking without giving can erode trust and create a one-sided dynamic. Consider Aunt Carol, who regularly attended her brother's holiday gatherings, enjoying the meals and company without ever contributing or reciprocating. When her brother faced a health crisis and needed her help, Carol claimed to be too busy, while still finding time for social outings. Her absence during his time of need revealed that her involvement in the relationship was conditional on what she could gain, leaving him feeling hurt and abandoned. These dynamics take an emotional toll, making you question the sincerity of the connection and leaving you isolated when you most need support. To navigate this type of relationship, start by recognizing the pattern. Self-serving relatives are often enthusiastic when they need something, but disengaged when you ask for help. Reflect on whether you're consistently the one giving or accommodating, and if so, it may be time to reevaluate. Open communication is key. Addressing the imbalance calmly can encourage change. For example, you might say, "I've noticed that I often help out, but when I need support, it doesn't feel mutual. Can we work on finding more balance?" However, keep your expectations realistic. Behavior rooted in selfishness is unlikely to change significantly. Setting boundaries is essential. Learn to say no when their requests overextend you, and establish limits on your time and energy. For instance, if they invite themselves to gatherings without contributing, politely suggest they bring a dish or host the next event. Their response will reveal their willingness to engage more fairly. Equally important is focusing on relationships that leave you feeling valued and supported. Invest in connections that offer mutual care and respect, as these will sustain you through challenges. Practice self-compassion and remind yourself that stepping back from a one-sided relationship is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Ultimately, dealing with a self-serving relative requires patience, assertiveness, and a focus on your own well-being. By prioritizing reciprocal relationships and setting firm boundaries, you can protect your peace and create space for connections that truly matter. 3. The lazy and dependent relative. Every family has its challenges, and one common dynamic is dealing with a relative who relies on others without taking responsibility for their own life. These individuals often lean heavily on family for financial, emotional, or logistical support, while showing little effort to improve their situation. Over time, this dependence can drain those who support them, leading to frustration, exhaustion, and resentment. Consider the story of Mr. and Mrs. Turner, a retired couple who welcomed their adult son, Adam, back home after he lost his job. They hoped their support would help Adam regain stability. Instead, weeks turned into years, and Adam made no real effort to find work or contribute. He spent his days playing video games and relying on their shrinking retirement savings. What started as kindness turned into enabling, leaving the Turners drained and disheartened. This kind of situation is all too common. Dependent relatives often see family support as an entitlement rather than a stepping stone to independence. They may expect ongoing financial help or free housing without making meaningful changes. Over time, this dynamic creates tension as caregivers feel used and the dependent relative becomes even more resistant to change. The key to managing this type of relationship is finding the balance between compassion and boundaries. True kindness doesn't mean enabling harmful patterns, it means helping someone grow and take charge of their life. Instead of offering indefinite financial support, provide tools and guidance, such as helping them budget, find job resources, or access community programs. Having an honest conversation is often necessary. The Turners, for example, might say, "Adam, we want to see you succeed, but this arrangement isn't working for any of us. You need to actively look for work and contribute to the household." Clear expectations can motivate change. Setting boundaries is equally important. Decide what you're willing to offer, such as temporary housing or help with job training, but avoid covering non-essential expenses or providing indefinite support. Communicate these limits clearly and stick to them. Encourage the relative to take responsibility for their own problems. For instance, instead of giving money to cover bills, suggest they explore financial counseling or make lifestyle adjustments. While stepping back can feel difficult, it allows them to face the consequences of their choices, which can be a powerful motivator for growth. Don't forget to prioritize your own well-being. Supporting a dependent relative can be emotionally taxing, and it's vital to protect your peace of mind and financial stability. You can't help others effectively if you're drained. If dependency persists despite your efforts, it's okay to step back. Letting go doesn't mean cutting ties. It means recognizing that you've done your part and trusting them to take responsibility for their life. Sometimes, the most loving choice is to give them the space to grow. Ultimately, the goal is to foster growth, not resentment. By setting boundaries, encouraging independence, and protecting your well-being, You can navigate this challenging dynamic with clarity and compassion. True support empowers others to stand on their own while preserving your balance and peace. Part 3. The art of choosing and letting go. In both neighbors and family, relationships are like gardens. They require thoughtful tending and sometimes the courage to uproot what no longer serves you. Here are 3 philosophies to guide your choices. 1. Choose relationships that uplift you. Surround yourself with people who bring joy, peace, and encouragement into your life. Whether it's a neighbor who checks in during storms or a relative who genuinely listens, prioritize relationships that leave you feeling valued. 2. Let go of toxic bonds. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning others, it means creating healthy distance. Whether it's a neighbor who disrupts your peace or a relative who drains your energy, stepping back can be an act of self-respect. 3. Build your inner circle with care. Your most cherished relationships should reflect mutual respect, love, and understanding. This inner circle becomes your source of strength and joy, providing a foundation for the challenges of life. As we age, life teaches us that time and energy are precious resources. Investing these in relationships that nurture your soul, rather than deplete it, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Now here's where you come in. Have you ever encountered a challenging neighbor or relative? What did you do to protect your peace? Share your story in the comments below. Your wisdom could inspire someone else to make a meaningful change in their own relationships. And if this reflection resonated with you, consider sharing it with a friend who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the Elders Compass. By joining our community, you're not only staying informed, you're supporting a space that truly values and understands the journey of aging with grace and resilience. And let us be your trusted guide through this chapter of life. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next videos.